except the letters. The detective did not report that Edie had taken to staring at him as she burned the letters, then grinding the ashes into the pavement with her shoe. Once she'd given him the Nazi salute. He had begun to dread following her. The last letter arrived at the beginning of December. Edie retrieved it from the post office and drove to the beach in Lake Forest. She parked in the spot farthest from the road. It was a windy, bitterly cold day. Lake Michigan was brown. Little waves lapped the edges of the rocks. The parking lot was deserted except for Edie's Honda Accord. She kept the motor running. The detective hung back, then sighed and pulled into a spot at the opposite end of the parking lot. Edie glanced at him. Must I have an audience for this? She sat looking at the lake for a while. I could burn it without reading it. She thought about what her life might have been like if she had stayed in London. She could have let Jack go back to America without her. An intense longing for her twin overcame her, and she took the envelope out of her purse, slid her finger under the flap, and unfolded the letter. Dearest E, I told you I would let you know, so here it is. Goodbye. I try to imagine what it would feel like if it was you, but it's impossible to conjure the world without you, even though we've been apart so long. I didn't leave you anything. You got to live my life. That's enough. Instead, I'm experimenting. I've left the whole lot to the twins. I hope they'll enjoy it. Don't worry. It'll be okay. Say goodbye to Jack for me. Love, despite everything. E. Edie sat with her head lowered, waiting for tears. None came, and she was grateful. She didn't want to cry in front of the detective. She put the letter into her purse. There was no need to burn it now. She pulled out of the parking lot. As she passed the detective, she gave him the finger. Driving the short distance from the beach to her house, Edie thought of her daughters. Disastrous scenarios flitted through Edie's mind. By the time she got home, she was determined to stop her sister's estate from passing to Julia and Valentina. Jack came home from work and found Edie curled up on their bed with the lights off. "What's wrong?" he asked. "Elspeth died," she told him. "How do you know?" She handed him the letter. He read it and felt nothing but relief. That's all, he thought. It was only Elspeth all along. He climbed onto his side of the bed and Edie rearranged herself around him. Jack said, "I'm sorry, baby," and then they said nothing. In the weeks and months to come, Jack would regret this. Edie would not talk about her twin, would not answer questions, would not say how she felt or let him even mention Elspeth. Jack wondered later if Edie would have talked to him that afternoon, if he had asked her. If he'd told her what he knew, would she have shut him out? It hung between them afterwards. Elspeth Noblin was dead, and no one could do anything for her now except bury her. The funeral cortege passed through the gates of Highgate Cemetery quietly, the hearse followed by 10 cars full of rare book dealers and friends. It was a very short ride. St. Michael's was just up the hill. Robert Fanshawe had walked down from Wyotraffers with his upstairs neighbours, Marika and Martin Wells. They stood in the wide courtyard on the west side of the cemetery, watching the hearse manoeuvring through the gates and up the narrow path towards the Noblin family's mausoleum. Robert was exhausted and numb. Sound seemed to have fallen away, as though the audio track of a movie had malfunctioned. Martin and Marika stood together, slightly apart from him. Martin was a slender, neatly made man with greying, close-cropped hair and a pointed nose. His wife, Marika, loomed over him. She had an asymmetrical haircut, dyed bright magenta, and matching lipstick. Marika was big-boned, colourful, impatient. The lines in her face contrasted with her modish clothing. She watched her husband apprehensively. Martin had closed his eyes. His lips were moving.